here for the Canelo Alvarez and Liam Smith fight. And if you paid $65 for that, or $75 on HD, was it $75 on HD? Beeb, was that it?
Something like that, yeah.
Something ridiculous like that? Yeah, if you paid for it.
75, Eric.
Yeah, if you paid $75, God, I feel bad for you here. It was funny. I got a tweet from Joe in Indiana earlier on. And he was over there and he was saying, because I told him, I was pretty evident that I'm not going to pay for this fight. I'm boycotting the fight. So I told Joe in Indiana, no, I'm not watching this fight. I'm not paying for it. And he says, come on, don't do that. We got to pay for this. And all the hardcores are going to pay for this. Joe just lost $500 on Kell Brook last week. I don't know how he can afford this one, but I tell you, he's got to be kicking himself right now, as do everybody else who actually watched this fight. And I'm going to loosely call it a fight. I'll tell you that. Let's recap the fight real quick. Robert, you saw the fight. Joe, you saw the fight. Let me give you my take on it. It was a glorified sparring session. At no point did Liam Smith, was he in this fight? The one shining note that Joe and I can hang our hat on is that it did go over the 9.5 rounds. So we told you guys it was going to go the distance, bet the over. Didn't go the distance, but it went over 9.5 rounds. That was the over. So there you go. Everything else, Liam Smith, I don't know that he threw, I don't even know that he landed 2 or 3 punches in the first round. I don't even know if he landed over 5 punches in that first round. It was terrible. It was
it was a total of 6 punches in the first round that he was credited with
ridiculous. Landing. Just completely ridiculous. I was telling Joe before we go on, if you're an English fighter, let me tell you what, if you're fighting out of the UK and you have not left the UK to fight in America, I don't want to hear your name. I don't want to hear your name. With the exception of Anthony Joshua, who I know has fought credible people, I don't want to hear your name. Because this guy has never fought out of England. He comes over here and just gets laid to waste. This fight wasn't even close. This was an absolute, I wouldn't even call it a sparring session. And listen, man, I'm not going to dog Liam Smith too much because he had a lot of heart. He showed a lot of heart. The kid was trying. He was absolutely trying. This was a complete mismatch, though. He should have never been in the ring with Canelo Alvarez, ever. This fight could have took place in his backyard, in his bedroom, wherever. This fight was going to be the same. I mean, I had it, what was it, 70-80 at one point? I guess after the eighth round or whatever, it was 70-80. I mean, there's no way. And I thought, coming in, I said, hey, look, man, I thought that Liam Smith may have had he looked confident, he looked calm, and me and Joe were tweeting back and forth, and God, this guy looks so calm, and I've got a feeling about him, Watching his past fights, I thought, well, maybe he can use his jab a little bit more. Maybe he can try to create some distance, try to control the distance, because he is an inside fighter, and that's not going to work well with Canelo, man, because so is Canelo. He can box. Canelo, he just set him up and just completely dismantled that guy. He made this guy look like a complete amateur. Beeb, what are your thoughts? Because I know, like I said, man, you and I were really high on Liam Smith coming in here. We thought it was going to be a lot better than clearly than it was, but this was just a lousy fight.
Well, I understand what you're saying about, Liam Smith coming over here and fighting Canelo Alvarez in his first really big fight. But this was an opportunity that obviously he could not pass up. And I give him credit for taking on the challenge and coming over here and actually, taking an extremely difficult fight overseas. Obviously, he got paid handsomely for it, more than he's ever made before in his career. But it was still a gamble. It was still a risk. He could have fought other fights and held on to that WBO title, making easier defenses, but he chose to take the challenge. Liam Smith is a decent fighter. He's a good fighter. He's a solid fighter. It's just that Canelo Alvarez was just on another level, as you said. And, I've criticized Canelo Alvarez in the past, and I've kind of not dismissed him, but I classified him as a mid-range fighter, particularly with that left hook in the mid-range area. That's his most effective punch. But he's added a lot more wrinkles to his game. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, look who he was in there with, whatever. But as I said, Liam Smith could beat and can beat a lot of junior middleweights out there. I mean, he's a solid fighter. But with that being said, Canelo Alvarez has really, really tightened up his game. He's really added, an inside game with those body shots and those short uppercuts on the inside. He's really, really improved. And I've always been critical of his foot speed as a fighter. But what he's done is he's realized, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be a guy who's going to be good at chasing people down all over the ring. So I'm going to try to suck guys in. I'm going to try and pick and choose my spots. When the guy, I'm going to go to the body, slow these guys down so I don't have to chase them all night. And he's really focused on his strengths and improved on his strengths because he's a fluid combination puncher. And if you notice, as I said, he held his own on the inside, but when he wanted to create space to turn his shots over, get that right hand going and, get the jab going a little bit and measuring Liam Smith with the right hand, he used a nice little push jab to create that space, push Liam Smith back with that jab. So he's really, as I said, varying up punches, adding little nuances to his game, and it's really showing, and he is improving. He is improving. He's only 26 years old. So I honestly think that Triple G would beat him, but the longer they wait to fight Triple G, I think the better his chances become. And, it has the recipe to be an interesting fight if they continue to wait and let Triple G get older while Canelo gets sharper. I mean, this guy hasn't even really entered his prime yet. He's still got about 2 or 3 more years left to really enter his prime. And as I said, he continues to get better. But with that being said, Liam Smith gave it everything he had in his body. He gave every ounce of effort, every ounce of intestinal fortitude that this man had inside him. He gave it tonight. And for that, I applaud the man. And I'm proud to, rep the UK because he made this fight entertaining. He had some good moments. He stood in there and he held his own on the inside, but it just Canelo was a little bit too slick, as Liam Smith said. He was a little bit too fluid with his punches. He was too quick, and he just picked them apart. And what can you say? I can't be mad about it because obviously I didn't pay for it anymore. I got my little hookup how I get these fights now. But with that being said, the undercard wasn't the greatest. And I thought that this fight was pretty entertaining and it had a really, really good ending to it. So does this fight kind of erase the lackluster undercard? Maybe not, but it kind of alleviates some of the disappointment. I'll have to say that. So all in all, I think Canelo really showed how good of a fighter he is and, how well he's improved. And Liam Smith, I've followed him, I've watched him fight, and he has a way of making fighters uncomfortable. And it looked like in spots he was making Canelo uncomfortable, but Canelo really, really did not let this guy get momentum. It looked like he was starting to get momentum, but Canelo just took it right away from him. And for that, when you fight a guy like Liam Smith, it's very easy for him to just wear you down and tire you out because you have to fight. A guy's in your chest all night and you have to continuously fight him off. That could be very, very taxing on you stamina wise. But Canelo, he doesn't fade anymore either. He started fast, threw a lot of punches, and that late round or that late fight fade that he usually has or has been known to have in the past seems to have been gone now. So this guy, as I said, he's really coming into his own. So let's see what happens next, man. That's all we can do. hoping it's something big next. And crossing my fingers. Triple G probably not, but Billy Joe Saunders fight would be extremely, extremely intriguing in my opinion.
And we'll tell you more about Beeb and I's hookup tomorrow on the show tomorrow, how we're getting these fights and everything like that, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. Robert, what was your take on this fight?
Well, Joe, as usual, breaks it down wonderfully. I mean, he put it in the box that it needed to be put in. But and all props to Liam Smith. He gave everything he had, but you could tell from the very beginning of the fight that there was a physical mismatch. Canelo was a lot stronger. He cannot stay at this weight anymore. Because he's totally going to destroy any other 154-pound fighters that he fights because he's just too physically strong. it's time for him to move up and start fighting at the weight that he needs to fight at. No more playing around with 155 or 156. He needs to move up to 160, and let's see how really good he can be as a true middleweight when he starts fighting real middleweight fighters. And this whole business plan of Oscar's, I really have a problem with it, because Oscar's business plan, for those that don't know, he wants Canelo to fight again in December, free on it. Well, not free, but on HBO. And then he wants Canelo to fight on pay-per-view again in May against somebody. And then he wants to fight Triple G next September. I think they're waiting on Triple G to get older, to have 2 or 3 more fights. And they want to take advantage of somebody who they think is going to be diminished, and then they're going to jump on the prize. That's what it looks like to me when a promoter and a fighter wants to put off probably the biggest, next to Ward Kovalev, Canelo and Triple G is probably the next biggest money fight out there. But, promoters are going to do what they're going to do. Fighters are going to do what they're going to do. And we as boxing fans, we just have to, deal with it the best we can. But I frankly don't like what they're doing here as far as the business plan is concerned. But I thought overall, Liam Smith gave the best he had. He did show Triple G and other Canelo future opponents things that they might be able to do, against him. But Smith did not have enough power because he wasn't strong enough, because he was not fighting a guy who was truly 154 pounds. Canelo was just much stronger and too big for him. That's the way it looked to me.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I agree with you, Robbie. I think that, like I said, man, he was just bigger. He was stronger. What else can you say? I mean, again, man, this is his first time fighting, and he had a lot of heart. I mean, you can't take that away from him. He wanted to win. You could tell he wanted to win. He wasn't staying. When he got knocked down, he didn't want to stay down. He got back up, and he tried to fight, and he was hitting Canelo. None of his punches were effective, though. Absolutely none of them. I mean, he could do nothing with this guy. I mean, he hit him with a Sunday punch all day, and Canelo just smiled at him and walked forward. There was nothing he could do against this guy. And again, man, this is, you can't blame, and to Beeb's point, you can't really blame him for taking this fight. You can't blame Liam Smith for taking this fight, because that's a lot of money. That's a lot of notoriety and everything like that. But, for a guy who's never been out of England to take this fight, and come over here and just get completely dismantled. I mean, really, what is this? I don't want to see Liam Smith fight again. I mean, after this, where does he go? I mean, who do you put him in with? I mean, who do you want to see that guy fight?
Well, let's just for a second put this in context a little bit. As I said, if you look at this junior middleweight division, would it be safe to say that Canelo could pretty much handle just about everyone down here now, given what we saw tonight? Because again, essentially, you got a guy who's really has the ability to make weight on that one day, and then just balloon up to light heavyweight proportions, right? Who else at this weight class is really doing that? And number one, and number two, who else can be that big, right? And still maintain the speed with the hands and the fluidity with the combination punching and not get tired. So it's pretty safe to say that at junior middleweight, Canelo could pretty much do this to just about everybody right now, in my opinion. And he's gotten better since the Irislandi Lara fight. He's gotten better since the James Kirkland fight. Whereas these other guys down here, they're not really showing a ton of improvement. They're good. Charlo brothers are good, but in their last fights, in Jamal's last fight, he didn't light the world on fire against a guy like in Austin Trout, who he was supposed to really beat convincingly. And Austin Trout, I know you can sit there and say, well, Well, Canelo didn't beat Austin Trout convincingly either. But I think if Canelo fought Austin Trout today, he'd possibly knock him out. So that's how good and how much better and how much stronger, just all around improvements that I've seen in Canelo Alvarez. So I don't want to sit there and say that, Liam Smith is still not a quality junior middleweight based off of this, because I just think Canelo is really a junior middleweight who should be fighting at middleweight, as Robbie has alluded to, number one. And number two, he's basically coming down here and he's bullying these guys, and he's going to continue to bully these guys, in my opinion. So I think he can walk through this weight class. So I don't think we should. I'm not saying you're doing this, Eric, but I don't think people should diminish Liam Smith at all because of this. Because as I said, I've seen him fight a lot, and he's a good fighter, man. He did some good things in there tonight. It's just the fact that he was in there with the guy who was faster, bigger, stronger. And if he was in there with a different fighter, we would have saw different things from Liam Smith. We would have been more impressed. But as this fight was going on, it looked like Liam Smith was going to make it to the end. He looked like he was hanging in there. But we have to give Canelo credit, because he really, really shortened those body shots up on the inside and really dug hard with those body shots. And he made a concerted effort that, I don't want this guy to hang around. I got to get this guy out of here. Whereas we've seen these other junior middleweights down here, they're not putting the lights out on their opponents. They're going just 12-round decisions, and they're not always exciting. They're lackluster. They're uneventful. So let's just take a look at the landscape of this division right now and ask ourselves, can anyone beat Canelo Alvarez right now? Demetrius Andrade, maybe he's the only one, in my opinion. That would be the toughest fight for him. But even then, this is a guy, Andrade, who likes to stay in the pocket, and Canelo can dig to that body. He could possibly create a lot of problems for Andrade too. As much as I like Andrade as a fighter, he's my favorite junior middleweight right now. He's my top guy in the division right now if Alvarez goes back up. But other than that, I think Canelo handles the Charlos. I think Canelo handles J-Rock. I think he handles all these guys down here. Vanes Monroe.
Well, just real quick, Robbie, not to cut you off, Robbie, but just real quick. Suleiman is in the chat, and he's asking, are we taking calls tonight? Not tonight. We'll take calls for tomorrow's show, but if you have a question, we encourage you to ask it in chat. Ask it in the chat room, and that way we can answer them and take care of you. And just give us, if you guys want us to talk about topics or whatever, we'll do that also. This is kind of your show, so you kind of guide us in the chat. So there you go. Go ahead, Robbie. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, at 154 right now, with what I saw tonight, he totally destroys the entire division. I think he has physically outgrown this division, and it's time to move up and fight true middleweights. Leave this division for the Charlos, for J-Rock, for Andrade, and I think Liam Smith at 154 pounds, if he was fighting another true 154-pounder, would be a competitive fight. I've seen enough out of him tonight to realize at his true weight, he would give other fighters problems, but he was fighting somebody in there tonight that is obviously outgrown this weight class. That's just my opinion.
I don't know. I mean, you talk about, you got the two guys there. You got Julian, you got J-Rock, and you got Andrade. I would have much rather seen that fight than the Liam Smith fight tonight, put it that way. That being said, I mean, I wouldn't give Liam Smith after watching him tonight, who would you favor in that fight, Liam Smith or Andrade, or Liam Smith? And I would favor the Charlos over Liam Smith at this point.
I think Liam Smith, because of the way he fights and how he puts pressure on, I think he would give the Charlos problems, because we saw how Charlos struggled with Vanes Monroe. He narrowly won that fight. Some people thought he even lost that fight. That fight was close. So Liam Smith, I think, is a little stronger than Monroe, and he has a way of putting on pressure. And I think he's a better body puncher. I'm not saying that Liam Smith would walk through this division, but he could make a ton of interesting, intriguing matchups. I don't think anyone in this division can do to him what Canelo did to him tonight. Let's just say that. In my opinion.
I agree with that. And I mean, Canelo just, Canelo is on another level. I mean, you're talking about a guy with, quite a few fights here. He's got a lot of experience. I mean, he fought Mayweather. He's fought all the top guys. Liam Smith has not done that, so it clearly was a mismatch in that, on paper it was a mismatch, and, that kind of translated into the ring. That being said, where does Canelo go from here? I mean, clearly he's got to move up, or he doesn't have to. He could stay at 154. Really, he could stay at 154 and collect all kinds of cash. That was a 51,000 people in attendance tonight. That's quite a gate for Cowboy Stadium. That's a big gate. Not to mention whatever he got on pay-per-view, which I hope wasn't a lot. He didn't get my dollar, that's for sure. And according to the chat, he didn't get a lot of other dollars over there either, which is fine by me. So hopefully his pay-per-view numbers aren't that great. But either way, he's the money man in the division now. No matter where he goes, he's going to collect the money, So where does he go from here? Does he go up into middleweight, and who does he fight next? I mean, who's the logical fight for him?
I'd love to see him fight Billy Joe Saunders, but I think Oscar De La Hoya is pretty smart, and he knows how to assess styles and how that style matchup would be problematic, I think, for Canelo. But that doesn't mean that he wouldn't have a shot against Billy Joe Saunders. I would favor Billy Joe Saunders over Canelo because of the style, but he's proven me wrong before. So it's not like it's a gimme that he could beat that Billy Joe Saunders could beat him. So I think it would be a tough fight. But this is the thing. I think you didn't see the whole post-fight interview. But in the post-fight interview, you got Bernard Hopkins and you got Oscar De La Hoya standing behind Canelo, and then you got Max Kellerman sitting there basically criticizing De La Hoya, saying, "Oh, well, Canelo, it's not your fault. I know you're just following the plan of your promoter, and it doesn't look like your promoter wants you to go in there with Triple G just yet." And I'm just sitting there looking at Bernard Hopkins. And Bernard Hopkins is just standing behind there, laughing and smiling when the whole interview's going on, and laughing at everything and clapping at everything Canelo is saying. But could you picture Bernard Hopkins himself saying those same things? He would never say those things. He fought everybody. He never, ever said that, okay, I'm going to listen to this guy, I'm going to listen to that guy. He was the guy who always said, I did it my way. And, back in the day, Marvin Hagler, he would tell Bob Arum who he wanted to fight. You know what I'm saying? So these guys are sitting there saying that I'm going to do what my promoter wants. We're a team, this and that. But at the end of the day, you're the one that's taking the heat. You're the one that's being criticized. You're the one that's being called all these names, and you're being insulted or whatever, and your honor is being questioned or whatever. I'm not saying that I'm doing that, but at the end of the day, this promoter works for you. So you decide who you want to fight. And whenever I hear someone say, well, okay, I'm just going to do what my promoter says, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I mean, why would you just put blind faith into someone like that? And Oscar De La Hoya is another one. He fought everybody. When he was with Bob Arum, he fought everybody. He never ducked anybody. He fought everybody. So these two guys are just like they're laying out a plan for their fighter who they're promoting that is in total direct opposite of what they did as fighters. And you would expect more from these two guys because they're fighters. At some point in time, I know that now they're promoters and they got to change their mentality. They're looking to make money. And the thing is this. I said before that people are going to start losing interest, but they're not. Because look at the crowd tonight. So I think if he fights Triple G, and even if he lost, I still think that he's loved so much that he already lost to Mayweather, and everyone still loves him. So if he lost to Triple G, would everyone all automatically just fall out of love with him? I think if he fought the Triple G and he put on a great fight, or he went out on his shield and he went down swinging, if he had to go down swinging, or if he went the distance, I think that would increase his popularity. So I don't understand what Hopkins and De La Hoya are doing. I'm just baffled by the whole thing. I really am. I'm at a loss.
Well, you brought up the post-fight interview, and I didn't get to see it. I was watching the fight on Box Nation, which apparently had a lot better announcers than the HBO. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
So I was watching it on Box Nation, and so let me ask you this: what did Canelo say? I know, and I know Kellerman asked him about Triple G, and he asked him about that. What did Canelo say about this? I mean, did he just defer to his promoters and say, well, hey, they're guiding my career?
Well,
Canelo,
the first thing he said, and it blew me away because I've never heard this before anywhere. And, you know, the three of us were on top of boxing because this is what we do. The first thing he said was, well, a month ago, we offered him 3 times as much money as we've offered him before, and he said no. Now, I haven't heard that out of anybody else's mouth anywhere. So I don't know if that's Canelo propaganda that Oscar told him to say to the crowd or what, because, number one, Tom Loeffler, he's a very smart promoter. I mean, look, after last week's fight, Triple G said, well, I want to fight Billy Joe Saunders. Well, the WBA president told Loeffler immediately after last week's fight, no, you're going to fight Danny Jacobs. And he's already started negotiations to work on that fight. So, I mean, Loeffler is actually doing what a promoter is supposed to do and making sure that his fighter fights the people he's supposed to fight. And you haven't seen Tom Loeffler say, oh, no, we're going to wait and fight Canelo at such and such a date. I think Oscar De La Hoya and Bernard Hopkins are full of shit, to be honest with you. You would expect better out of these two guys because, as Beeb put it, these two guys fought everybody. Now, I understand when you're a promoter, your number one priority is to make money. But the problem is Canelo is so popular with his fan base that literally it looks like you can put this guy in the ring against anybody and people will fill up whatever arena he's in, and which is not going to hasten the Triple G fight. It's going to allow them to pull a Mayweather-Pacquiao kind of thing, and they're going to be able to put this off as long as they want because people are still going to show up to his fights. And, you know, it's a sickening way of doing business, but as long as it works, you know, what can you do as a boxing fan?
But even if they did offer him that money, as they said, or Canelo's claiming 3 months ago, wasn't the deal that the fight would be at 155? And Triple G was like saying to himself, or saying to us, I'm not going to defend my 160-pound title at 155 pounds. So that was the sticking point. So it's like, I understand Triple G's a champion, and you know, judging by what we saw tonight in terms of the audience and how many people showed up in that crowd, it's pretty safe to say that Alvarez, you know, is the A side here. Now, whether that's fair or not, that, you know, you guys or people out there or the fans can determine that. But it seems as though people look at Triple G as the real middleweight champion and forget about all this lineal champion. This lineal champion bullshit as Max Kellerman is trying to sell us, you know, with all due respect to Max Kellerman. But, you know, I don't know. When he's got that HBO mic in his hand, man, I don't know. I think he just like Jekyll and Hyde, like he just turns into another guy because he don't act like this when he's on First Take. But, you know, he's just, I don't know. He's out of control. He's sitting there. Oh, I don't blame Canelo. Why would you not blame Canelo? He's in charge of the ship. He's the boss. He's moving the pieces. He's the queen on the chessboard, and everyone else is pawns. He's controlling what goes on. So why would you not blame him?
But he's allowing Oscar and Bernard to basically say, no, you're going to do it our way. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the fighter is supposed to be in control of his career. I mean, when's the last time did you see a top fighter like this put his eggs in a promoter's basket and say, well, I'll just fight anybody you tell me to? I mean,
all the Al Heyman fighters, all the Al Heyman fighters do that now.
Like all of them, not even just one of them, like all of them.
Yeah, this is like a new thing, man. These guys are like freaking financial advisors now. They're not even promoters anymore, man. They're not even. A promoter's job, obviously, is to make their fighters money, or actually, a promoter's job is to make themselves money first, and then obviously they have to make the fighters money. But a promoter's job is supposed to be to put on good fights that people want to see, so people will spend the money to watch them, or spend the money to go to them. And unfortunately,
that's but
unfortunately,
for credit, because he actually goes out and negotiates with all sides and tries to put.
What? I mean,
I understand that, Robbie, but the problem with this whole situation is, I don't know how, because a lot of people aren't buying these pay-per-views anymore. But guess what? Look how many sponsors were there. You know what I'm saying? Right. Look how many people were in that stadium. So this guy has the ability to fight anybody, and it just generates dollars. So I don't know if there's anything we can do as boxing fans to stop this, because we're not buying the pay-per-views anymore. But guess what? As I just said, they're getting sponsors, they're getting money. They're getting the Jerry Jones is putting up the money for the fight. You know what I'm saying? They're being able to put these fights in big stadiums, and they're selling these stadiums out. So it doesn't look good on the horizon, for this to change at all, because again, look what happened tonight. This was a fight that not a lot of people, not a lot of hardcores were excited about, but for whatever reason, a lot of other people, particularly Jerry Jones, was interested in that. I mean, they could put any fight that they want from Canelo in that stadium, and it'll do well. This guy's got a following. He's really got a following, and I don't think that his following and people like Jerry Jones and sponsors, and look at the advertisements he's doing now. This kid's a superstar, and I don't think it matters right now who he fights. No one seems to care except for people like us.
Yeah, that's true. That's why we're called hardcores. And Jerry Jones already said that he's going to double the site fee when they decide to put the Triple G fight on, because he wants to put 100,000 people in the stadium for the Triple G fight.
Wow. Look, we can talk about Tom Lawford being a great promoter or a good promoter and a good manager and everything like that. But the bottom line is, and he very much is, but you can't discount what De La Hoya has done with Canelo. Canelo can fight anybody. No. It's just like Beeb said. I mean, he could fight anybody. He put 51,000 people in the seats to watch him dismantle Liam Smith, a guy that absolutely outside of this room nobody knew. Right. I mean, let's face it. No casual fan knew it. They didn't know. They just knew Canelo was fighting on Mexican Independence Day. Dude, 51,000.
Who was the attendance for that Austin Trout fight at the Alamo Dome?
That was like 40,000.
Jesus Christ! I mean,
you can't mess with that, man.
And no disrespect to Austin Trout, and by no means no disrespect to Liam Smith.
No,
but these guys are not household names. You know what I'm saying? These guys are not household names. So what happens? What happens when a real super fight? I mean, he's only fought really 2 super fights, one against Cotto and one against Mayweather. But what happens? Not because now he's becoming more popular. Now he's got, like I said, more endorsements, whatever. Now people are starting to see him more and more, and he's getting better. What's going to happen when he fights his next big super fight? How many people are going to show up to that one?
Right.
Well, remember, last May he fought in a baseball stadium, and they put 35,000 in a baseball stadium. So when he fought Kirkland, so this guy can literally fight anywhere, and people will show up. He's an automatic teller machine. He'll make money wherever he fights.
Well, let's face it. I mean, he doesn't need Triple G. I mean, that's the bottom line. And as much as we want to see that fight and everything like that, and everybody's clamoring for it, he doesn't need him. He doesn't need him at all. Not at all. And Russell Scott is in the chat, and he wants to know, like, he came out and he says in the chat, what did he say? Something to the effect of he thinks that Canelo would be clearly favored over Triple G based on Triple G's performance against Brook and Canelo's performance against Liam Smith tonight. I got to tell you, I don't think there's any way in the world he's favored over Triple G. I don't care if Triple G got knocked down 3 times in his last fight. There's no way he's going to be favored over Triple G. You're looking at a guy who's riding, a 23 fight knockout streak or something like that? 23 knockouts in a row.
Correct.
middleweight champion of the world. I mean, he's the middleweight champion of the world. I don't care what they say about the lineal. He is the man. He is the lineal champion of the world. I don't care what they say about Canelo.
Yeah.
Talk about middleweight champion. You're talking about Triple G, and everybody knows it. I don't think now that's not to say Canelo wouldn't beat him. That's not to say anything like that. But what I'm saying is the odds would definitely come out in favor of Triple G. No questions asked. And I don't care how many Mexicans come out and bet on that fight and bet on Canelo. It's still not going to swing in his favor.
Well, let's just say this. Let's just say this. Triple G could have opened up as a probably 4-1 favorite 6 months ago. So maybe he'd be a 3-1 favorite, but there's no way Canelo would be the favorite. And let's really look at – I think people are really looking too deep into that Kell Brook fight. Let's look at that, what it was. I mean, I had the fight even up until the point of the stoppage, and it was very clear that Brook was not going to win that fight after seeing what happened in that fourth round.
Yeah.
Even if he made it out of that fourth round, there was no way. If he was going to lose every round after that, he was going to get hurt pretty bad. So Triple G put it on him. I mean, he finished that fight in style. He hurt Brook. And you could say he got hit or whatever, but Triple G wasn't hurt. He wasn't staggered. He didn't get buckled. His head didn't even snap back. He was walking through those punches because he was fighting a welterweight. Now, did he sit there and allow Brook to hit him on purpose? No. But he definitely had a different game plan for this fight. He was not really overly defensive in this fight. He didn't fight Kell Brook the same way he fought David Lemieux. And I sure as hell do not believe that he's going to fight Canelo Alvarez the same way he fought Kell Brook. So we have to really look at this fight for what it was, and let's not read too much into it and kind of make it something it's really not. You know, I know everyone has their own opinion upon what they see. That's why we have three judges, and all the three judges have their viewpoints, and they have different scorecards or what have you. But Triple G stopped Kell Brook, and he stopped him pretty emphatically. He broke his eye socket. What else? I mean, and Kell Brook was bleeding from his nose, bleeding from his eyes, bleeding from his mind. I mean, he was getting beat up as well as he did early. It's a 12-round fight, so you can go 4 rounds or whatever and have the fight be even on the scorecards. That doesn't mean anything, man. How many times has Floyd Mayweather given away early rounds, like when he fought Zab Judah? And you know what I'm saying? Those things don't mean anything. You know, even earlier in the first Maidana fight, Floyd Mayweather was down on the cards, but he came back and he won the fight. This, Triple G was in my opinion, no danger of losing this fight against Kell Brook, and none. All you had to do was look at Brook's body language every time he got hurt, and I said to myself, "There's no way this guy's going to finish the fight. No way." And I was pulling for him too, but I mean, it is what it is, man.
All right, let me ask you guys here. Do you think the fight with the undercard and everything like that, do you think the fight was worth the $75? Robert, let's start with you.
In all honesty, not really. But, this card, it was what it was. It was obvious when you watched each matchup on this card, it was obvious who was going to win each fight. I hate to say this about a pay-per-view, but you could tell from the beginning of each fight who was going to win. There was no drama in any of these fights. It's almost like you could pick these names out of a hat and say, okay, this is who's going to win, because that's how each fight on this card, including the pre-show before the pay-per-view, that's how all 7 of these fights played out that I watched tonight. It was obvious who was going to win each fight, just because of I don't know who does the matchmaking at Golden Boy, but they didn't do a very good job of picking opponents to fit with their A-sides, if that makes any sense. Yeah. It was set up for all their A-sides to win, and none of these fights were really competitive. And I can say that after watching 7 fights today.
Yeah. I don't think it was worth the money, but I don't think it mattered because, as I said, there was different ways this event made money. So I think the promoter overall is happy because they continue to showcase their fighter, and they did it. They did it in front of what 50,000? Was it 50,000 or 40,000 people tonight? What did you say? How many people?
51,000.
51,240 the official.
Yeah, they did it in front of 51,000 people, which speaks volumes. So, and not only that, when HBO shows the replay next week, then they'll get a pretty hefty amount of people watching it again. So, yeah, it's not worth the money, but it doesn't matter because I think the fighter made out well, and I think the promotional company made out well. I'm not so sure how HBO did though, or it's gonna do.
So numbers wise, I mean, let's talk numbers here for a minute. What do you think as far as pay-per-views? Do you think it's over or under 300,000?
Maybe a tad under. Maybe a tad under.
I would say maybe 300 to 350.
Because he did 300,000 with Angulo, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, or
I believe he did around 300,000, if I'm not mistaken, with Laura also.
Yeah. So I mean, if it does around 300,000, it's not a total disaster.
Yeah, I think it does. I think it does under 300,000. I wouldn't be surprised if it did under 250.
I'm going to say
on Mexican Independence Day and Cinco de Mayo and stuff, it's tough. It's tough to because that's when everybody gets around and they know they're watching a fight that night. They get the families together and that kind of thing. But I think it goes under 250. I really do.
Well, we'll see how many Latinos actually forked out the money, because I think the number is going to be bigger than that. So
Russell Scott in the chat also had a very interesting point. He said that he thinks that Canelo fought the better competition than Triple G. I'm not sure I disagree with him. I think Canelo has fought better competition. I think it's better resume. If you put those on paper and you put them side by side, I think Canelo does have the better resume, no question.
I don't think you can argue that point, honestly.
No. And Suleiman also in the chat says that he thinks that Gabe Rosado should retire.
Absolutely.
I think he should have retired after the third round of that fight. I mean, that was just painful to watch. Whoa. Willie Monroe was smacking that guy. I mean, with jabs and just counters, just ridiculous. I mean, just clean shots. And Willie Monroe's not exactly known for his power, but I mean, just clean shots, man.
Well, this is the
Monroe
thing.
Is one of the names now being considered for the December date. Although Canelo said in the post-fight interview that he hurt his hand. I don't know if there's any truth to that or not, because it's kind of hard to see after the 9-round destruction he did of Liam Smith.
But this is the thing about Rosado that troubles me. Every fight I see him in, he looks like he's slowing down more and more with each fight. And not only that, William Monroe is not a big puncher, but when you're able to hit a guy over and over again, it doesn't matter how hard you hit. If you're continuously getting hit in the same spots, on the eyes and the nose, whatever, it's going to have an effect on you. It's going to have a cumulative effect on you. And after a while, you're not going to sit there and want to get hit, regardless of who's doing the hitting. Because if you can't stop it, then that's a problem, and it's not a good feeling. I don't think anyone likes to get punched in the face. I don't care who it is that's throwing the punches at you. But yeah, I think Rosado, I just see his face getting busted up every fight. He's slowing down. I hope he's making good money, but at the end of the day, if he has some money socked away, I hope he could just walk away from this game, man, because I don't see a good ending for this guy. I mean, I don't think he's ever going to become a world champion. I think he's pretty much exhausted all his avenues in this sport. I don't know. Is he going to continue to get calls? I mean, what more can you do with this? What more can you do with this guy at this point? So that's what I'm saying. So,
well, BB's got 10 losses, so I don't know how many more losses he needs to take. He needs to find something else to do.
Yeah, he's gonna have to find something else to do.
Suleiman's in the chat and he says it's true his skills have faded. Question for Suleiman here. Do you think Gabe Rosado should go on? I mean, let me ask you that in the chat. Do you think Gabe Rosado should go on? Should he fight? And if he should fight again, if you think he could fight again, who would you like to see him fight again? While we wait for that answer, let me kind of switch gears here. Gabe Rosado wasn't Francisco Vargas. Wasn't he in Margarito's corner in that Pac-Man fight?
Francisco Vargas or Fernando Vargas?
Fernando Vargas. I'm sorry.
It was Fernando Vargas.
Right.
Yeah. That's what he meant.
Wasn't he in the corner for the Pac-Man fight with Antonio Margarito?
I'm not sure.
He was, but
I believe he's going to get somebody killed. He's gonna get killed.
But Robert Garcia was the trainer.
Robert Garcia was a trainer, but I thought that Fernando Vargas was in that corner also.
He may have been, Eric. I can't.
He's going to get somebody killed because he's the kind of guy that's a tough guy, and he doesn't want to throw that towel when he should, and he very much should throw that towel. I mean, that Rosado fight. I mean, Rosado was getting touched up. It was not a good fight for him.
If Willie Monroe can hurt you, that says all you need to say about your boxing career, folks. I mean, Willie Monroe is known for being a boxer, having good ring generalship, using good defense. He's not known for his offense. He's not known for, beating somebody up the way that he beat up Gabriel Rosado. I mean, I give Willie Monroe lots of credit because when he fought Triple G, he actually showed us things that we've seen things out of Triple G in that fight that we'd never seen before. We got to see how complete a fighter Triple G actually was, and that was the result of how good Willie Monroe was. Even though the fight only lasted 6 rounds, Willie Monroe actually brought out things in Triple G that we never got to see before.
Yeah, and Suleiman says the same thing. He says that he thinks he should retire also, and Suleiman, we all agree. I think so too. It was tough to watch it. If you're a Rosado fan, I mean, that was a tough one to watch for sure.
Let me jump in real quick because you talked about the Garcia family and Fernando Vargas, who's part of that kind of training team over there.
Yeah, let's talk about this one.
Let's take a look. Let's talk about this fight. The Joseph Diaz Jr. fight and Andrew Cancino fight. In the 8th round, you got Danny Garcia, Danny Garcia, the trainer, the brother of Robert Garcia, sitting there, asking him, asking his fighter, who's definitely is done. He's in the corner. He's bleeding from 5 or 6 places in his face. He's totally done. He's getting beat from pillar to post. He's lost every round. Oh, do you want me to stop it? Do you want me to stop it? Do you want me to stop it? The fuck are you asking him? Do you want me to stop it for? On live television, on a mic where people can hear you. You think the fighter's gonna say, "Yeah, I quit"? Fighters don't want to do that. Why do trainers continuously fucking do that? Put their fighter on the spot. Save the fighter from himself. And kudos to Max Kellerman for pointing that out as well, because he was like, why is he asking him? Why doesn't he just pull the plug? Why would you put your fighter in that position that he has to say, I can't continue? I mean, you knew he was done. You knew he was done. You knew there was no way he could win that fight. And then you send him out there, and then you let him get pummeled on again. And then you stop the fight after you see him getting pummeled on. Well, like was that really necessary or even worth it? I fucking can't stand. I can't stand when I see a trainer in a corner asking a fighter who's bleeding from 10 spots in his face and he's lost every round and he's basically done on his stool. Do you want to continue? Do you want me to stop it? Do you want me to stop the fight? Of course you should stop the fucking fight. Oh my God.
He's not going to say, yeah, the fighter is not going to say, or at least the fighter's not trained to say, yeah, stop the fight. I've had enough.
That's like seeing a guy. That's like seeing a guy on the ground caught on fire. Hey, do you want me to throw a blanket on you to stop the fire?
Right.
I mean, what the fuck is that? I mean, Jesus Christ. Nothing pisses me off more than when I see a trainer do that. I'm sorry, and maybe it's not even my place to say this because I'm not a trainer. But hey, that just pisses me off, man. Oh, I was so fucking mad when I saw that.
Well, that's why I give Kell Brook's trainer a lot of credit because he didn't ask the question. He right.
No, and then go not to sound like redundant or anything because I've mentioned this before. That was like in that Margarito fight, Robert Garcia is sitting there saying, oh, I didn't stop the fight because Margarito would have killed me. What the fuck does that mean?
Right.
His eye was fucking flapping flapping all over the place. He's fucking hanging off.
Well, not only that affected him for the rest of his career. I mean, it affected his life. You know,
It ended his career. It ended his career.
Ended his
fucking career.
Somewhat. I mean, it ended his. It should have ended his career. He's fighting now. I don't know. He's fighting in Tijuana or whatever. I don't know. But
well, let's put it this way: it virtually ended his career on a top level. Because there's no way he
right.
Right. Let's put it in that perspective. But that fucking aggravates me when these trainers just do that, man. Oh my
Russell
God.
Scott had a good point in the chat. He says we have to stop calling shot fighters warriors, and I can see his point. I mean, you look at Gabe Rosado and everybody they call him a warrior because he's he fights to the end. He does everything that you want a fighter, a quote unquote fighter, to do. Just like Liam Smith tonight. I mean, and not that he's a shot fighter or anything. He did everything you wanted to see a fighter do. I mean, he get beat to a pulp, and he still came back. He did not want to quit. He did not want to stop that fight. Fight wasn't stopped, essentially. I mean, he was knocked out. But, I mean, that's what they want to see. But I think he's got a point here. I think he's got a very valid.
That's the problem, too, because this is the thing. So when you label a fighter a warrior, you put him in there with guys who are much better than him, but you say to yourself as a network or a matchmaker or whatever, this guy's not going to win the fight. He's probably going to take a beating, but he's going to hang in there till the end. And does that matter? I mean, you're basically using the fighter as a piece of meat. He's cannon fodder for somebody else.
Well, look at what and I'm sorry to interrupt. I mean, but look at Andre Berto. When he fought Floyd Mayweather, and Mayweather's excuse was, well, he's never been in a boring fight. Translation, he's going to get massacred in here, when he lost 12 rounds. I mean, so, being a warrior is great and everything, but, it's like I said, I mean, I think Rosado's a warrior, but again, man, I don't want to see him take a beating. I don't want to see really anybody take a beating in there, and I don't think anybody really wants to see that. You want to see a good competitive fight, but not,
And Mickey Ward was called the warrior, and I love Mickey Ward, and I would never say anything derogatory about Mickey Ward. But I interviewed him a couple of years ago. He told me, I have blurry vision out of one of my eyes, and that was because he was a warrior. You know what I'm saying? So being a warrior comes at a cost. So I'd rather fight like Floyd Mayweather and be able to, have all my faculties in place, as opposed to, having blurry vision at the end of my career, or not being able to talk properly or being able to walk properly,
Well,
so I think Russell makes an outstanding point, because we're seeing these guys with warriors, and basically, we're taking pleasure in seeing these guys getting beat up, as opposed to watching a competitive fight where two guys are skilled and they may be taking shots every now and then, but they're not having their head being snapped back every round 10 or 15, 20 times in a round. That's not healthy. And for us to, that's why when someone said to me the other day, oh, how could you say, what did I said something, I said a fight was fight of the year. Oh, my fight of the year so far, a fight that I enjoyed, I thought had a little bit of everything in it, was Leo Santa Cruz and Cal Frampton. And this guy goes, oh, how could you say that? Francisco Vargas versus Orlando Salido was way better. That fight was a war. And to me, okay, that was an entertaining fight. But I thought that the Santa Cruz-Frampton fight had a lot of action in it, but as well, both fighters showed a lot of skill. And it was nip and tuck, and they were making good defensive moves as well. Now, am I going to discredit Francisco Vargas or Orlando Salido? No, because they fought to the best of their ability, and they did make it for an exciting fight. But both guys took a ton of punches. There was not like, to me, that was, I guess it was basically a brawl. It was a street fight. I'd rather watch an exciting boxing match instead of an exciting street fight. And that's just my opinion. And again, that's subjective. Everyone has their own opinion on what they like. But just the mentality of this guy was, because that fight was a brawl, and those guys, both those guys landed like 50% of their punches. Well, that just shows me that, there was no defense in that fight. It was just basically a brawl. It was basically just violence. And I can go to a bar room and see that. I'd rather see what I saw at Frampton and Santa Cruz, I thought that was an outstanding fight.
Much higher skill level, much higher skill level. And I'm with you. I mean, everybody likes the, everybody liked the Arturo Gatti fights, when he used to go in there and get into big wars and everything like that. And he was knocked down 50 times and he comes back and wins. But, I like the skill. I like watching Pernell Whittaker. I like watching, I like watching Floyd Mayweather. I like watching Guillermo Rigondeaux. I like watching, where the guys hit and don't get hit, or it's a chess match in there, so to speak. And those are the skillful fights, and every fight has its merit, I think. But if I have to call fight of the year, I'm probably less likely to go with a slugfest too.
Well, that's the thing. Like we have but a lot of people out there, they label fight of the year as the most violent fight, the fight that most resembles a barroom brawl, so to speak. And they just take away, like, what about a nice competitive fight, ebb and flow? Like that Porter Thurman fight was very good too, because both those guys, that was like a chess match, but it had a lot of action in that chess match. It was not a boring, dull fight. Both guys, trying to break each other down, trying to open up the other guy, trying to spot weaknesses and pick up on mistakes that the other guy made. It was very entertaining watching that, because one guy would one run, another guy would another. But if a guy is landing like 50% of his punches, that's just a brawl. That's just a slugfest. That's not, to me, that's not a boxing match per se. I mean, it's a boxing match, but it's not the type of boxing match that I like.
Well, let's talk about a fight tonight that wasn't so competitive, and that was the Diego De La Hoya fight. I was out. I didn't get back in time to watch that. B, fill me in here. What happened? I heard it was a complete shutout. You had it 9-1. I think Robert had it 10 rounds to 0.
I scored it a complete shutout.
Yeah, I heard it was bad. Friend of the show, Orlando Del Valle. What's going on?
Yeah.
Nation's finest. What happened?
When he came out, the rounds were competitive early on, and it looked like it was going to be a competitive fight. And he even, Del Valle landed some good right hands. And, I've been critical of Diego De La Hoya. I think he's somewhat robotic, a little stiff sometimes, but he can punch. He can definitely punch, and he's good at really, throwing those straight shots down the middle. He's a really good body puncher too. And for a tall guy, he can hold his own on the inside. But the thing is this, Del Valle would land a right hand, and De La Hoya would just catch the right hand. And as Del Valle was like, he extended the right hand, he threw it. Before he could pull it back, De La Hoya was just countering him. So he's punching basically with him. And he was able to do that, and he employed that game plan because he knew he was the heavier hitter. So he would kind of take the shot, roll it a little bit, roll back, slide back. And then as Del Valle was out of position, he was getting hit. And when you're out of position and you're not prepared to take the shot, the shot does more damage. So De La Hoya was catching the shot when Del Valle was throwing the lead right hand, and Del Valle was catching the counter right hand. And De La Hoya obviously is a heavier hitter, but if you add on to the fact that it was a counter shot that Del Valle was out of position and not prepared to take, then the shot did more damage. So after a while, taking that right hand over and over again, taking the body shots over and over again, Del Valle just slowed down. Just slowed down more and more as the rounds went on, and De La Hoya just basically cruised. He could do whatever he wanted, and he cruised to a unanimous decision. But I also heard in Del Valle's corner, I think, around the 7th or 8th round, they said something was wrong with his right hander. They said something like, "Oh, well, just then use the left." Then I heard the translator say something like that. So I don't know if Del Valle hurt his right hand. We'll find out later. See what happens in the articles after the fight or the post-fight press conference. If we could see some videos, find out if he hurt his hand. But nevertheless, he could not deal with Diego De La Hoya's power, and De La Hoya really could take his shots very well, and so he had his way with him. It was basically a very one-sided fight.
Robert, let me ask you, you scored the fight 10-0. Where does Diego De La Hoya go next?
Well, frankly, it's time for his cousin to give him better competition. This is what I mean about this whole card. after seeing all 7 fights tonight, the 3 on the pre-show and the 4 on the pay-per-view telecast, they were all basically, as they turned out to be, setups. There was no competition really in any of these fights. If I'm Oscar, I have a conversation with my matchmaker to try to find his promoted fighters better opponents, because as you know, of course, you don't know about these things before they happen, but as it turned out, these were all layups for the Golden Boy fighters tonight, and it's time for Diego De La Hoya, Joseph Diaz, and all the Golden Boy fighters to basically step up their level of competition. This was just too easy for any of them tonight, in my opinion.
To be fair, though, on paper, this Devalier De La Hoya fight looked to be a pretty competitive fight because it was a step up for Diego De La Hoya. It was his toughest opponent to date. And on paper, I thought it was going to be a good fight. And, you know, even the Gabe Rosado fight, I know Eric's, you know, he said before the fight that it was going to be a whitewash for William Monroe Jr. But, you know, Max Keller made a comment that he thought because of the styles it would be a good fight. And I kind of thought that it would have its moments because I expected Gabe Rosado to be more aggressive and go at it and kind of throw caution into the wind because he knew he had to, because obviously he was in there with a guy who could box better than him, a guy who was faster than him. But that's another thing about Gabe. I said he's slowing down, but now he can't really pull the trigger anymore. You know, there's no snap on his punches anymore. The fight was just very, very one-sided, and there was not one good moment in that fight for Gabe. I don't think he had one good moment in that fight, and I expected to have a couple good moments in that fight, and it just didn't happen. So Robbie's 100% correct. After watching this event, it was totally lackluster. But I think the matchmaker had some ideas here when he put some of these fights together, and obviously, like just for PBC is the perfect example. Whereas some of the fights didn't look good on paper, but they ended up coming out to turn out to be good fights. This was just the opposite. So sometimes this happens.
Yeah, I thought it was a good. I mean, as far as promoters go, I thought it was a pretty good showing because you know you don't want you know, Diego De La Hoya. That was a fight I was really excited for. Clearly, I didn't get to see it, but you know, that was a step up for him. I mean, that really was. That was supposed to be a step up for him, and he completely whitewashed that guy.
Yeah, he did.
But that's what you want. I mean, you want your guys to shine. I mean, that's the thing. They want them to shine on there, and win big. You know, and that's kind of what happened here. I mean, overall, I mean, that's really what happened. Everybody won big. All right, let's get to our final thoughts here and wrap this up. Robert, any final thoughts?
No, not really. I mean, everybody did what they're supposed to do. Let's see what Canelo does next. Let's see what Diego De La Hoya does next, and you know, Joseph Diaz. Let's see what these guys do next, and we'll look forward to whatever it turns out to be. Let's hope that Canelo did not hurt his hand at all, because I don't want any more delays in this fighter's career. I don't want any more excuses to come out. Well, fights are going to be put off because of this. So I've got my fingers crossed, and hopefully, you know, what he said tonight wasn't true. So, and we'll look forward to talking to everybody tomorrow.
Beeb, final thoughts.
I thought that the main event was very entertaining. It looked like early on Liam Smith was going to hang in there till the end and make Canelo really have to work for this victory, but obviously that wasn't the case. And I know a lot of people are critical of Canelo for not fighting Triple G, and a lot of people are upset with Canelo, but I have to call it like I see it. You know, people think that I am a Canelo detractor because I've been critical of him, particularly with the foot speed. But as I said, you know, he doesn't have the foot speed, but everything else is kind of making up for the lack of foot speed. I'm not going to go back into it, but with that being said, I see him getting better as a fighter, and I think that he'll continue to improve. You may not like every single opponent that he's facing. But let's not forget, he did fight Floyd Mayweather. He did fight Miguel Cotto.
Yeah.
He did fight Erslandy Lara, and he did fight Austin Trout. So my hat goes off to him. I'm going to give him credit. He's had a great career so far. Golden Boy's done very well with him. They've moved him along well, and I'm not ready to throw him under the bus just yet. And I'm starting to come around, and I'm starting to believe in this kid because he's showing me something new every fight, and I'm seeing the improvement, and I think he's going to continue to improve. And I know he's making a solid effort to improve because he's training's hard, and it just shows in the ring when I see all these new little wrinkles and nuances that he's added to his game. And I'm excited to watch this guy fight. I mean, I may not get him in a fight that the perfect opponent that I want to see him fight, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to tune in. This guy has me interested. This young man has me interested, and I'm going to continue to watch Canelo Alvarez. I'm just going to cross my fingers and hope a Billy Joe Saunders fight comes around, or hope a Triple G fight comes around. Hell, I'd even take a Demetrius Andrade fight right now, and I'd be happy with it. So let's cross our fingers, and we'll hope we get a good fight next time out. And as Robbie said, I hope his hand is okay and it recovers quickly so he can get back in the ring again.
Absolutely. And that'll do it for this edition of the post-fight, the live post-fight show. Now stay tuned tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern. You guys can call in, and we'll give you the number. I don't remember it right offhand, but Beeb, do you remember right offhand? Robert, what is it?
I got it. 323-870-3857. So, and remember, press 1 if you want to call in, but we'll talk to you tomorrow evening.
That's right. Don't hold it against me too much. It is 2 a.m. here on the East Coast here, so
that is
it's
correct.
been a long night for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, me and Beeb both. Yeah, we're both on the East Coast, so there you go. Robert's still ready to party. He's about
Beeb's got some caffeine in him right now. He's ready. Yeah, he had to jack up the caffeine a little bit.
Absolutely,
but definitely past my bedtime.
Yeah, no doubt, man, no doubt. So we'll be taking calls tomorrow and everything like that, going over all these fights and plus all the fights from the weekend and that kind of thing. And we will catch you tomorrow.
All right, take care.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for staying up with us.
Peace out.